49 undefeated. 49, 49, I say. 49, 49 undefeated. Playing for the Arsenal way.
Hello, how you doing? Welcome to my new channel, over and over and over again, which features everything to do with Arsenal, as you can tell by my top and the background. So today's video, I'm going to do it in two parts. It's just going to be the player ratings for the 2019-2020 season. I'm going to go through in part one the sort of goalkeepers and the defenders, and then in part two it'll be the midfielders and the attackers. So if we get straight into it then, start off with the goalkeepers. We've been really fortunate this season, haven't we, to have had two goalkeepers who have really produced the goods for us. Obviously, for most part of the season, it was Bernd Leno was the number one. Absolutely brilliant. When we were having real trouble at the start of the season, real problems, we were getting like pushed wide open, teams running through us, chance after chance. I think he's still, despite missing the last part of the season, I think he still made the second highest number of saves in any goalkeeper in the Premier League this season. He was absolutely brilliant. Kept us in so many games. It's just a shame that a couple of mistakes he made in the game against Chelsea, for example, that maybe cost us some points there. But overall, he had a brilliant season, and I think it's important that we don't forget the part that he played in that first part of the season, where things could have been a lot worse if it wasn't for him. Obviously, it looks like he's getting himself back fit again, so hopefully next season he'll be back strong again. It was a great season from Leno. I'm going to give Leno an 8 out of 10. I thought he had a really good, solid, steady season. And then, of course, Emi Martinez came in after that game, at the game at Brighton when Leno got injured. And I think a few people were a little bit worried, weren't we, about what might happen. But he really steps up, absolutely brilliant. I can't even remember him making a mistake. Solid on crosses. Made some great saves as well. Really important in the FA Cup run, that stage of the FA Cup. Brilliant in the semi-final and the final. I'm going to give Emi Martinez a 9 out of 10. I know Leno shouldn't be forgotten, and he's got a slightly higher mark, but I just feel as though at the end of the season, the crucial point, he stepped in and just was absolutely brilliant. So 9 out of 10 for Emi Martinez. It's going to be interesting, isn't it, next season to see who gets the number one spot. And the battle between them could be really interesting, actually. So, but we're lucky to have them both, aren't we? Both of them had great seasons. Our other goalkeeper was Matt Macy. I don't think he made an appearance, did he? He was on the bench a lot. I don't think we actually saw him play, so it's difficult to give him a mark, unfortunately. If we move on to the defenders, start on the right hand side. Hector Bellerin sort of struggled, didn't he? Coming back from his injury, never really seemed to get back to his top form. I thought he got better as the season went on. After lockdown, he seemed to improve. Maybe the competition from Cedric Suarez maybe pushed him along a little bit. But overall, I don't think it's been a great season from Bellerin. He's been nowhere near his best, but he did perform well in the cup final, and hopefully he can get himself back to sort of full fitness, if you like. Going into the new season, but I think only maybe a 5 out of 10 for Bellerin for the season, because I think he's been poor overall. Move on to Cedric Suarez, and obviously only came in January and was injured, and then he got injured again in training, and he's hardly played. Obviously he made a big impression on his debut, scoring that goal against Norwich, but he's not really featured much since, so it's hard to judge him. I'm quite excited about what he can do for next season, but I can't really give him any more than a 5 out of 10 just because he's not really played. But hopefully he can be a really useful player for us next season. Maitland-Niles, of course, also played sort of on the right hand side of the defence. In fact, he's played everywhere. He's played on the left hand side. He's played in midfield. I think he's had a bit of a hit and miss season, maybe a bit like a lot of the defenders really. He's had some good games and he's had some poor games. He was in and out of the team at the start. He's been in and out of the team all the way through, really. He made a big impression in the big games towards the end in the FA Cup with the semi-final and the final. But I don't think overall he's had a great season. I can't really give Ainsley Maitland-Niles any more than a 6 out of 10, I don't think, for the season. Callum Chambers, I know he's almost been forgotten about because he got injured, didn't he, in December. But in the first half of the season, he was playing quite a lot. Played right back a few times as well. I thought he actually did well. I thought he had a solid season. He was looking really settling in well into the team. I know he'd been out on loan and stuff like that before. So I was actually quite disappointed when he got injured because he'd been playing well. But he's missed over half the season, unfortunately. So I can't really give him any more than a 5 out of 10. But again, optimistic that if he can recover from his injury, he could have a fairly bright future with the club. Moving on now to Squadron Mustafi. Very difficult season for him. I mean, in the first half of the season, we wasn't even sure if he was going to stay at the club, whether he was going to be sold. Obviously, Unai Emery didn't really rate him, didn't want to pick him. He was getting a lot of stick off the crowd, and you wondered how he could come back. But I mean, he's been the comeback that he made under Arteta has been remarkable. I mean, he's put in some solid, steady performances, and in fact, he was one of our more consistent defenders in the second half of the season. It was a real shame, wasn't it, that he got injured in the semi-final against Manchester City, because I feel as though he deserved the opportunity to play in the final, and he's missed out again. Second time, he missed out 2017 final as well. So I feel a bit sorry for him, but I think the way he turned his season around, he deserves a lot of credit for that. So I'm going to give Mustafi a 7 out of 10 for the magnificent turnaround in his form, really, and hopefully he can push on next season and can be an important player for us. Um, Socrates is another one who was in and out of the team. I mean, he started the season playing. He was doing okay. I felt at the start of the season he was all right. He was probably one of our more consistent defenders actually at the beginning of the season, and he seems to have fell out of favour with Arteta. He came on briefly in the cup final at the end, but that's his first appearance, I think, since before lockdown. So he's not been playing. So it's difficult to give him a big score. In fact, he looks like he might be on his way out of the club as well. So, but I think overall maybe a 5 out of 10 for Socrates, just because again he didn't really feature enough towards the end of the season. Next is a bit of a controversial one, David Luiz. He's always coming for a lot of stick since he joined, whether it's because he come from Chelsea. His mistakes seem to have been magnified, and yes, he's made some mistakes. Let's not beat around the bush about it. But I think overall he's had a good season. I think he's been mostly solid. Yes, I say a few mistakes that he's made, a few high profile ones as well. He's given away a few penalties, got a couple of red cards, but also as well he's produced some really good performances. Particularly in the big games when it mattered, against Liverpool in the semi-final against Man City, and of course in the final as well. Experienced players have to turn up in the big games, and he did that for us. The young players seem to really look up to him. And I think that I personally think he's had a good season. I'm going to give David Luiz a 7 out of 10. If it wasn't for maybe a couple of those mistakes that he made, particularly the Man City game in the league, I might have even given him an 8. But I think a 7 is a fair score for what has been, I think, a solid season, first season at Arsenal for him. And I say hopefully next year he's got another year now. And yeah, I think he's going to be an important player at the club, not necessarily playing every week next season, we'll see, but certainly the influence that he's got around the place. So 7 out of 10 for David Luiz. Rob Holding, if we move on to Rob Holding next, again he struggled a bit since his injury. It's difficult, isn't it, when you have an injury like that, you're out for a long time, to get back into the rhythm of it. He's had a couple of good games, but he's also had some poor games as well. And I suppose he needs a bit more time, doesn't he, to really get some rhythm and some fitness. I'm not sure if Arteta really trusts him completely. He didn't really want to play him much. He was forced to play him at the end, obviously, when Mustafi got injured. He did okay, but I think maybe a 5 out of 10 for the season, because I just don't think he's quite there yet, is he, with his fitness? So, but I think there's more to come from Rob Holding. I like the guy, and I want to see him do well. I just don't think this season it's happened for him really, but a lot of that's down to, say, the injury. If we move on to Mavropanos, I know people seem to forget about him. I think he only made one appearance for us in the Europa League. I don't know how much future he's got with the club. Can only really give him maybe a 3 out of 10, because I seem to remember him being pretty poor in the game he played. So it might be better for him to move on and sort of start his career elsewhere. It's not quite worked out for him, which was a shame, because he came to the club and had a great debut, didn't he, at Man United a couple of years ago, and looked like he could have a big future, but it's not quite happened for him at Arsenal, has it? So that's a bit of a shame. The other sort of centre back that we've had, Pablo Mari, again came in January, played a couple of games, looked good, but then got injured, and he's been out for the rest of the season. I'm quite excited about what he can do next season. I'm looking forward to seeing him play next season, but he only made a couple of appearances. I can't really give him more than a 5 out of 10. I don't think that would be right, although he did impress me in the games that he's played. So again, another one for next season. I'm quite excited about seeing how he develops with us. Moving on to the left-hand side, Kieran Tierney. I mean, wow, what a great, consistent run of performances he's put in since the lockdown. You know, he was a bit in and out of the team before. He had a lot of injuries. He's injured when he came. He then got that shoulder injury at West Ham, and he never really got a steady run of games. It was difficult to maybe judge him. But I mean, what a finish he's had to the season. If that's what he's going to be able to produce, then he's going to be fantastic next season, isn't he? I mean, unbelievable finish to the season. But I just feel as though because of the first half of the season, I can't really give him any more than maybe a 7 out of 10. He would have probably got 8 or 9 for the way he's finished, but I just feel as though the first half of the season he didn't play enough really, and because the mark's got to be for the full season as opposed to just half of it, I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10. But I'm expecting a lot of big things from him going forward because he was brilliant. Um, Said Klasnach, of course, had been playing left back on the left hand side of the defence a few times. We know defensively he's not great. He didn't even really impress that much going forward this season. In the past, he maybe has looked a little bit more dangerous, you know, going down the left hand side and putting some balls in. But this season, he never really did that. I thought he had a fairly poor season overall. You know, he was only really played towards the end when Tierney needed a rest. And again, I'm not sure what future he's got at the club. I don't think it's been a good season for Kolasinac, maybe a 4 out of 10 for him. And the only other player in defence I think that we used was Nacho Monreal. I know it seems like a long time ago when he left in August, but he did play the first 3 games. You know what you got with Nacho Monreal, steady, solid performances every week, and that's what he put in at the start of the season. But he only played 3 games. I can't really give him more than a 5 out of 10. But he seems to be had a good season, doesn't he, back in Spain? So great for him. And he was a good servant for the club as well. Let's not forget, he still did play for us this season. So just want to give him a shout out really as well because I feel as though he had a decent enough career at Arsenal. So that's sort of the goalkeepers and the defenders. So I'll go on to the midfielders and the attackers in the second part later on. So that's that. Please leave your comments if you agree or disagree with any of my ratings, which I'm sure people will do. And I say please like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll keep up videos for a lot of Arsenal content coming up throughout the summer as well with the transfers, and I'll look back at a bit of history stuff as well, from seasons gone by and great old classic players that we've had and stuff like that. So stay tuned for that. But for now, up the Gunners.
49 undefeated. 49, 49 unashamed. 49, 49 undefeated. Playing for glory, Arsenal when